Welcome to MSBC 3303, Analysis of Common Problems. This is section 1A. And we want to talk about make the connections and how to do so. And you should have a book called the Biblical Counseling Practicum. And so from this book, we're going to be looking at make the connection cases, as well as exercises. So you're going to have cases to do where you're going to make connections and work from the beginning to end with the problem and the solution. But before you do that, there are going to be 50 make the connection exercises that basically show you how to analyze, categorize, and take things to the framework. So let me read some things to you to kind of get you understanding, and then we're going to do a couple of exercises together to show you how this works. When evaluating a situation, you have to come to learn what you can and cannot control. The things that we cannot control, such as people, thoughts, words, actions, or outcome of situations, are what we'll define as neutral items. So if you think about it from this standpoint, looking at the framework, there are things that we cannot control. And there are things that in and of themselves are not wrong for us, if you will. So for instance, I can't control people and what they do or don't do. Okay? Neutral also means in the context here that if I'm sad or disappointed, that is in and of itself neutral, and that for me it is not a sin. So the word neutral is going to be used two ways. Neutral is going to mean one thing, which is I can't control people and outcome of situations. We define that as neutral. And also, in other words, don't have, how can we put it, accountability before God for being sad or disappointed. It's okay to be sad or disappointed. It's not a sin. Like Job, he grieved. And so we will consider that neutral. So in looking at that on the framework, let's walk through some things together. Neutral. Then you've got lack of love, sense of guilt, apparently uncaused fear, and apparently uncaused fleeing. When we start talking about doing make the connection exercises, what you're going to be doing is you're going to analyze a situation. You're going to categorize the things that you're analyzing, and then you're going to take them to the framework. So say that with me. Analyze, categorize, take it to the framework. Okay, let's say it again. Analyze, categorize, take it to the framework. So when we are walking through some of the make the connection exercises, your job will be to analyze, categorize, take it to the framework. Now, I want to give you an example of this, but before I do, I want to show you what some arrows mean. So notice these arrows that you're seeing going here, and some are going to the right and some are going to the left. I want to explain what that means. An arrow to the left means that there is a voluntary choice that has been made. So in other words, you see where this lack of love is, and then you have neutral. In order for neutral and a lack of love situation to connect, you had to choose to respond. That's a voluntary choice. And when you choose to respond to something that you cannot control, which is what we're going to define as neutral in one context, that lack of love issue in reaction to what you cannot control will produce involuntary things. So the arrow to the right is what we call involuntary. It's beyond your control. So in other words, arrow to the left means I chose to do something in response to what I could not control. I chose to have a lack of love response. Arrow to the right, these are the involuntary things that happens in my heart as a result of my choice. Now, with that being said, I want to give an example of what you're going to be doing with the make the connection exercises. So I want to do a few of them with you so that you can get an idea of how it works. So if you have your book, maybe turn to page 7, and we want to look at number 1. And we're going to read number 1 and maybe number 2 and number 3. And by the way, these are things that will be on your quizzes. So you may want to really pay attention to how to do this because, again, twofold on the quiz, but also is going to teach you when we start to do cases how to pull things together in a way that is God-honoring and helps you to analyze, categorize, take it to the framework so you learn how to use the framework in real time. Okay? So let's take an example. On page 7, it says, make the connection between missing the bus and having an anxiety attack. Now, these ideas or these connections are trying to teach you how to identify sense of guilt, apparent uncaused fear, apparent uncaused fleeing, lack of love, and or neutral things, and show you how to pull them together and analyze them so you see how they fit in real life situations. So it says, make the connection between missing the bus and having an anxiety attack. So if we think of this, analyze, categorize, take to the framework, analyze. What are the two things I'm analyzing? Well, let me put this down for a moment, and let's see if we can work this through together. What two things am I analyzing? I'm analyzing missing the bus and having a panic attack. So we're going to do it this way. Missing the bus, having a panic attack. We're going to use these as, again, ideas. You know what this means. MTB, missing the bus, having a panic attack. So what am I analyzing? Missing the bus, having a panic attack. Now, I need to categorize these two things. Missing the bus is basically neutral. It's neither right or wrong. Okay? Panic attack. Well, where does that fit on the framework? Is that a demonstration of a lack of love? Is that a demonstration of a sense of guilt? Is that a demonstration of apparent uncaused fear? Is that a demonstration of apparent uncaused fleeing? This is where you're going to have to do your research and look at the Heart of Man and the Mental Disorders book and look at all the other resources you've had in learning the framework to try to identify what these things are. And as you learn them, you're going to put them in the proper place. Now, missing the bus we know is a neutral situation. Panic attack is a demonstration of apparently uncaused fear. So if we wanted to put this on the framework, we would say missing the bus, arrow to the left. Now, why are we putting an arrow to the left? Because it's a neutral thing. So it's a neutral thing. Therefore, in order for it to be tied to a panic attack, I had to choose to respond in some lack of love scenario in order to get to apparently uncaused fear. So what happened? Lack of love towards missing a bus. I could be angry. I could be frustrated, whatever it may be. Well, whatever that is, that leads me, arrow to the right, to a sense of guilt, which then leads, arrow to the right, apparently uncaused fear, which is being demonstrated by what? A panic attack. This is how we do the make the connection exercises. Now, how do I know if I have it right? Well, every arrow with every perspective put in the right place equals a point. So, missing the bus, I put it in the right place. That's neutral. That's 1 point. Arrow to the left, knowing that I had to voluntarily choose to walk in a lack of love towards that, that's 1 point. Putting the lack of love in the right place is 1 point. Showing the arrow to the right is 1 point. Showing the arrow, the sense of guilt is another point. Arrow to the right, 1 point. Apparent uncaused fear being demonstrated by panic attack. Now, if we add this together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everything is in the right place. What this is trying to teach you to do again is to analyze, categorize, take it to the framework. So notice what we did. We used the framework to help us pull it together. Now, if I can help you understand this, you're going to make the connection as far as the connection goes. So for instance, if this would not have been a panic attack, but getting drunk, which again, let's just take that out and say, he missed the bus and he got drunk as a result. Well, you've got to understand the connection between the two. Getting drunk would be a sin, but as you've learned from previous courses, that is a second level sin, which means it is used as a way to flee from the fear of God's judgment because one has a guilty conscience due to the lack of love choice. So then we would take this and we would expand it to say missing the bus. We would get rid of this. Let me just take this away for a moment. And we would have AU fear, arrow to the right, AU fleeing being demonstrated by getting drunk. And so that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, I want to do this again because I know I'm moving fast, and hopefully as you keep watching me do this, you will catch on. So again, what is our goal? We're going to analyze, categorize, and take to the framework. So let's do another example. Let's look in your book and let's take number 2. It says, make the connection between child being sick and mother getting drunk. Okay, make the connection between child getting sick, mother being drunk. Now, again, take this in mind. Analyze, categorize, take to the framework. So what are we analyzing? We're analyzing a child getting sick and mother being drunk. Now, if we understand this and put this on the framework, child getting sick is a neutral situation. So right up front, that's neutral. Mother being drunk, it's a sin, but again, as we learned about second-level sins, this is a sin that is used to flee from the fear of God's judgment, a sense of guilt due to the lack of love situation. So therefore, we see this as AU fleeing. So then how do we put this on the framework? How do we make the connection? Again, we've analyzed, we've categorized, now we're going to take it to the framework. Child getting sick. Notice, arrow to the left. Why? Because child getting sick is neutral, but the mother had to respond a choice of walking in an unloving attitude towards the child being sick, which produces, arrow to the right, a sense of guilt. Arrow to the right, apparently uncaused fear, and then arrow to the right, apparently uncaused fleeing, being demonstrated in mother being drunk. So now we add up the points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. As you look at your notes, you notice that it was a total of 9 points for that. Again, we're analyzing, categorizing, taking it to the framework. Now, let's do a few more so that you can kind of get an idea of this. And let's just kind of go down the line. So, here's another one. It says, make the connection between worrying and indecisiveness. Make the connection between worrying and indecisiveness. Worrying, and we're just going to put ND, indecisiveness. Now, this is interesting. Make the connection between worry and indecisiveness. Now, here's what we got to do. Again, analyze, categorize, take to the framework. So now, what am I analyzing? Worrying and indecisiveness. This is challenging you to learn how these things are demonstrated. How is AU fleeing demonstrated? How is AU fear demonstrated? How is a sense of guilt being demonstrated? How is a lack of love being demonstrated? And if there's a neutral situation, how's that being demonstrated? Now, what I want you to notice in this scenario, there's nothing neutral going on here. Worry is just lack of love, and indecisiveness is a demonstration of apparently uncaused fear. So, I've analyzed, I've categorized, now I take it to the framework. So how do I do that? Worry would be a lack of love issue, which leads, arrow to the right, a sense of guilt, which leads, arrow to the right, AU fear, being demonstrated by a person being indecisive. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals 5 points. So notice in this situation, there's no neutral. So we didn't use neutral, arrow to the left, because there's no need, because we're taking it as far as we make the connection between the two things being analyzed and categorized. Now, your job from this is to do all 50 exercises. I've done the first 3 for you. You're going to go through and you're going to do this through 50 of these Make the Connection exercises. And as you work through them, for the next 2 weeks, you will be having exams that will have 25 on one exam, and then the last 25 on the next exam. So your job is to learn this. Now, let me encourage you to watch the other video as I tell you how to put a book together to do cases, and from that book that you're going to put together, you'll be able to evaluate all the different ways a sense of guilt expresses itself, all the ways AU fear expresses itself, and all the ways AU fleeing. Now again, when I say all the ways, I don't mean completely and holistically, but comprehensively. You'll get details so that when you're doing your research, if you say, well, I would have known that indecisiveness was AU fear, then you would have done the research and looking at the various books and things that I'll show you to look it up to see where it fits or to see things that are like it so that you can begin to correlate and begin to research and study and say, well, looking at this, indecisiveness is apparent uncaused fear. Oh, now I get it. See, the goal is to teach you how to see these particular things within the context of the framework. And the more you learn that, the more you'll be ready to do the cases that will come next. Well, I hope you're getting this, and if you're a little fuzzy, just keep watching this over and over and over again until you pull it together. Remember, analyze, categorize, take to the framework. We'll see you in section 1B as we talk about how to do a case.